This is Joe with MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the Her Network on Single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Single TV app on the respective iOS stores and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure that you leave a comment. The app is free. You can watch us on the Single TV app and also can watch us on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all smart TVs since 2016. Hi, I am your host, Joe Peters, most known as Joe Unicorn Coach, and I am happy to have you here. We are going to be talking about something really important today. Before we go deep, I want to remind you that if you have any question, any doubts, any concerns, any problems related to how to win motherhood, go to Joe Unicorn Coach in Instagram or Facebook and send me a message. I handle my social media personally. So if I don't know the answer, I will find somebody like Jessi to come here and talk exactly about what you need to talk. That is my mission in life, helping you to thrive and win the marathon of motherhood without burnout. So I am super excited to have Jessi here because we are going to be talking about that. But that fourth trimester was something that really surprised me. So, Jessi is a CLC PMHC postpartum empowerment coach who helps new and expected parents to feel as calm, confident, and prepared for their life with their newborn as they do for birth. Jessie believes that every birthing parent deserves to feel seen, heard, and in control of their postpartum experience and is honored to walk alongside her clients through their journeys. She offers highly customizable, I'm not saying that right, one-on-one coaching as well as group coaching programs for parents who wish to have an empowering and support transition into parenthood without losing themselves. Jessie is passionate about providing evidence-based lactation education and support to her clients so they can feel confident in their infant feeding goals. Her one on one coaching package also include nutrition support designed specifically for healing and replenishing her client's body after birth. Jessie lives in Colorado with her husband and two beautiful boys, where they enjoy everything outdoors in the Rocky Mountains that the Rocky Mountains have to offer. Jessie, welcome. I'm super excited to have you here. Thank you for being in MomFit, the MomFit, the TV show. Let's gonna start with a little bit of how you find this passion, how you find yourself falling in love with helping expectant moms to prepare for postpartum and why that is so critical, and why you pick the phrase that you pick. I always ask my guests to give me a phrase, and your phrase, I love it, says, "You don't have to be a martyr to your motherhood." So,
Yeah,
Jessie, welcome and
thank you.
share with us a little bit about who you are and why you get here.
Yes, thank you so much, Joe. This is such an honor to be here with you today. And yeah, I think for many of us in this field, when we work with mothers and the birthing world or the postpartum world or the parenting world in general, I have found that it has been through our own experiences and what we found lacking in those experiences. And that is very much where I have come to find my passion. My transition into motherhood was not at all what I had envisioned. And with my first son, I was one of those parents who felt so prepared for birth. I had my birth plan like perfected. I had my baby registry, filled with all of the latest and safest car seats and all of the best cribs and everything that I could think of, right? And I felt so prepared for this huge event in my life, which was birth. And I took all the classes and I read all the books. And then it came time to have my baby. And in the hospital, the day I delivered, it hit me like a train that I had no idea what I was doing as a new mom. I struggled with my breastfeeding journey immensely, and it contributed to mental health issues. And I just began to spiral after that. And getting home from the hospital, it became even darker and even more difficult, trying to figure out how to feed my child, how to take care of him. I was in the childcare industry and I felt like I had a lot of skills, but going from being a caregiver to a actual parent was so that gap was so bigger than I could ever anticipate. And it really affected my recovery physically, my mental health. I struggled with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And then just the crippling shame from all of this, that I wasn't this instinctual mother that I thought I would be. And it really affected my ability to bond with my child. It affected my marriage and so many other things. And the shame of it, I I was scared to reach out to anybody about it. And so I really suffered in silence for close to a year. And then I finally decided it's not the way I wanted to live. It was not the way I wanted to mother. And I sought help and I began my healing journey. And once I was in a better place, I realized like I was so passionate about helping other parents avoid that same path. And I knew that I had, this special gift of being able to see what I had already gone through and how to apply that to guiding others down different pathways and being able to figure out how to prepare for a more confident transition into that parenthood and to have the right support system around me and how to actually learn to heal my body from the inside out after birth. Um, and so really from there, I decided to pursue my education. I decided to really work on my own healing, and I got pregnant again after some infertility issues. And I knew that I wanted a different experience my second time around. And so I actually hired a postpartum coach and I worked with her on creating an empowering experience. And from all of that, my education, my work with her, my own beautiful second postpartum, I built really a way to help empower parents and prepare them for that fourth trimester transition and beyond.
Wow. It's funny because we almost live parallel lives because my story was, and that is one of the reasons why I create the show. It was
Yes.
very similar. It was perfect birth, perfect pregnancy, and then the fourth trimester hit me. Very similar breastfeeding issues, postpartum depression,
Mm.
anxiety. So I feel you, and I'm been there with you, and I agree.
Yes.
It's one of those things that is given for granted. So it's like, oh yeah, you're a mom, you're a woman, you know what to do, you know how to do things,
Right.
and we are left to figure out. One of the things that for me was very big contrast is I'm from Colombia originally,
Mm.
and there are still cultures where that is a lot more sacred. Like for example, in Colombia,
Yes.
we have the 40 days where from the time that the baby is born, the first 40 days of the baby, that is 5 weeks, the mom doesn't leave the house. The
Yeah.
mom doesn't do anything. That she usually had female family members that cook for her, that give her like baths and warm her
Mhm.
up and take care of her and take care of the baby. And it was very, even now after all these years living here, I still get like a shock when I see like these tiny little babies just in the mall with their moms because
Yes.
they're like, yeah, we're living the life, but I'm like, you are still healing. Like there's a
Yes.
tiny baby. So let's gonna talk about a little bit about preparing for postpartum,
Yes.
when we can start preparing for postpartum and how that looks like.
Yes. So I always say it's never too early to start preparing because I truly believe that the more time we give ourselves to acclimate to this idea of becoming and unbecoming, because I really believe that is what this motherhood transition is. It's becoming who we are going to be as a parent, but also still maintaining that sense of self and letting go of pieces of ourselves that maybe no longer serve us or just don't fit into this new life that we're creating, right? And that's a big shift for so many of us. I know that that identity change was way more difficult for me than I ever imagined because I had always envisioned myself as a mother. Like that was always what I was so excited to become in life. And then to have this very shocking experience to mourn my old life, mourn who I was, mourn this independence, and to be completely consumed with caring for this tiny little being who depended on me for everything, right? It was very disruptive. And I don't think anything could really prepare you completely for that change, but at least understanding that that is normal is so much like comforting and a relief for people when I walk them through that. Like, expect to have these losses, and it's okay to mourn those losses, and it's okay to kind of create this new sense of self and to hold on to pieces that are really important to you of your old identity that really, you want to hold close. And so giving yourself enough time to journal about that, or to really process what that's going to look like for you, or the things you do want to hold on to, gives you that time and energy now in pregnancy versus when you're just like up for 24 hours trying to feed your baby, you're exhausted. It's not the time to try to prepare when you're in the trenches, right? We want to try to have a plan and a strategy before we get there. So I love recommending people just start thinking about these things, have the conversation with your partner, really start focusing on your priorities and what's important to you, and what your parenting philosophies and how you want to approach that together, and all of those type of things. So the earlier, the better.
And I want to talk with you about something that is been coming recurrently in my show too, and that
Yes.
is the need for doing this, even if it's not your first child.
Oh,
Because
yes.
usually when it's the first mom, the first time mom, then the mom is a little bit more, not to the point that we need them, that all of them
Mhm.
do it, but there is more awareness around the
Yes.
doulas and preparing. But then it's almost like we have the first child, and then there is a switch, and everybody in the world, like, including us, think, oh,
Yes.
second, third, fourth child is going to be the same, and every child is different. The
Mhm.
experience in postpartum with one child can be completely different than the other one. And I
Yes.
will even, you as an expert, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I will even take the risk to say that if you struggle with the second or the third, it can be mentally even harder for you, because then you are comparing with the first one, and
Yeah.
then it's going to take you into an even deeper spiral of what I'm doing wrong. With the first one
Mhm.
everything was good, so it's
Yes.
not about only first time moms. I don't know, like, why doesn't matter if it's your first or your seven, it is
Mhm.
important that you prepare proactively into how to face that parenthood and those first months and those first years.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Joe. And I feel like there is those different ways of approaching it, right? So the first time parent, you're going to be a lot more concerned around more of the tactical things, right? Because you've just never been through that experience. And I feel like some of the people I work with who are more of a seasoned parent, they have seen the other side, and some of them have had great experiences, but many of them that I work with did not. And so they know the darkness, and they know that they don't want to repeat that same process and make those same pathways, right? And they almost want a healing experience. Their second or third or whatever birth it might be is seen as this opportunity for healing. And I think that that is so true, because if we've struggled before, we have a new opportunity, right? It's a new beginning. It's a new way of entering into this sacred time in a way that we feel empowered, in a way that we feel supported. And that's so, so true. And I think that there's a lot of, like you said, a societal expectation of, you're a seasoned parent, you got this. There's probably not going to be as much support, not as many meal trains being set up by folks, because they just think that this is something you've done before. You don't need as much support. You've got this, right? And in fact, it's more of a complicated thing when you have more than one child, because then you have a whole nother layer of family, right? So you have to also prepare your older siblings or your older children for this new transition, for this new family member. And it's a process for them too. Every single person in the family is experiencing their own version of postpartum. and their own version of transitioning into this new level of family and what this means and how you function together. And it's so important to have a plan for all of that, like how you work as a family, how you nurture your marriage or partnership, how you support those older children, how you work together to ensure the household is being ran the way that it needs to be so you can focus on healing, right? All of these things. So I could not agree more that it doesn't matter whether you're a first time parent or you're a sixth or seventh time parent, you need this plan every single time. And it's going to be different every single time because your needs are going to be different.
Okay, amazing. And let's gonna talk a little bit for, because I want you to talk with both groups. We have here
Mhm,
around the world moms that are pregnant, and
mhm,
then uh, we are going to talk about 3 reasons why you need to work in your postpartum plan now that you're pregnant. But also with moms that are like you and me,
mhm.
in the middle of it, feeling lost, feeling depressed, feeling
Yes.
lost. To also, I agree, it's never too early, and also it's never too late. So it's going to talk
Yes.
about those two groups. Like, first, what are 3 reasons if you are pregnant to do it proactively? And
Mhm,
then, if you didn't because you didn't hear from Jessie and me when you were
mhm.
pregnant and you are just holding your baby now crying,
Right.
it's not too late, and what we can do in that matter.
Yes, for sure. So, of course, preventatively in pregnancy, I always look at postpartum preparation as a preventative health measure. And it is because there is so many things that are connected, short-term health benefits, long-term health benefits, and all of these things that just are connected. They're interconnected on how we heal in postpartum and prepare for postpartum. But of course, it's never too late, right? And I think that that's such an important message because just like me, where I suffered in silence because I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know if it's just me, what's wrong with just me, right? Because I see all these other beautiful families on Instagram and Facebook, and everybody seems to just be having everything together and they can do it all. And what's wrong with me? I can't even get out of bed to get dressed. And so I think that, the benefits are those preventative ones, but also all of these same concepts around having these. So I talk about 5 pillars of postpartum empowerment, and they really center around the self-care of the birthing parent, and that's a really big one, that has a lot of facets to it. It's not just bubble baths and making sure that you're, getting a facial done or whatever, right? It's much deeper. We talk about soul care, like what feeds your soul, what feeds you as a person outside of motherhood, and how can you incorporate that into your daily life in a way that's manageable, but also that is a priority for you, right? Oh, sweet. Hi. And so having that self-care is one of those pieces that is never too late either, right? And it's hard because I feel like in the beginning or when you're in that really difficult stage, people have this high expectation of what self-care is, right? And it seems to be this more higher level thing. But I also always encourage people, like, self-care is also attending to the basic needs. And sometimes we need to make sure we start with the basics again to be able to grow from there, right? And so ensuring you are eating and you're eating enough, and ensuring that you are eating nutrient dense foods that are actually going to help balance your hormones, that are going to help you heal your body and the traumas from birth. Even if you had a beautiful, easy birth, the body still views it as trauma. And so if you're not focused on healing from within and out, then you're going to continue having these struggles of sleep, of mental health issues, because it's one of the biggest connectors for mental health is lack of sleep and lack of proper nutrition. So really focusing in on those key pieces to get yourself at a better level, to get out of that hole. And then we can start adding in some of these other more higher level things, connecting to your identity, understanding who you are, reaching out to community members, and making sure you have the support system. That is one of the biggest things, is that, I'm sure you notice like that huge lack, from being of Colombia, of this beautiful sacred time in Colombia for postpartum versus this more westernized view of postpartum of, like, bounce back, You got to bounce back to what you were before, just with the baby on your hip. And that's just not accurate. And it's not, really what we should be doing. We need to be focusing inward during this time and really ensuring that we are being nurtured as the nurturers. We are being mothered as the mothers in a way that we deserve.
That is fascinating. Let's gonna talk a little bit about how these moms can reach out for help
Mm.
and how they can start building that support system, because I think that one of the challenges is that society is being implicit in it, putting the expectation that we should we should be able to handle it all. We should be able to. I was actually with a guest a couple of weeks ago, I think, and then she was talking about a client of hers, that her partner was like, I don't know why you're struggling with this. My mom did it with six and was fine. So even though society is being influencing us into that concept of it's only our responsibility and we need to figure out how these moms can start feeling that empowerment into reaching out for help, how they can start finding some of that support system that is going to help them. And then we will talk about having the big support system of people like you and me and
Yes.
sleep consultants also in the team. But from that immediate family and friends, how they can start articulating what they need and how they can ask for support. Because sometimes they don't even know what kind of support
Right.
they can ask for.
Right, yeah, no, I love that. It's so true, and I think that I always kind of think of you have kind of these layers of people around you, and sometimes we feel like we don't have anyone, right? And yes, that can be true for some people, and in those cases, we look to our community resources, right? And so that's a lot of the things that if we truly don't have family or friends around that we can trust or we can rely on, we have to start building our own village, right? But so many of us assume that we don't have that support because we are afraid of being a burden, right, to our family or being a burden to our friends. And so a lot of it is really that inner work around it is not a weakness to ask for help. No one is meant to do this alone. It is something that we've been forced into as a society by society to do this alone, right? And so having that um, empowerment to say, okay, it is normal to need help. And so now I'm going to take a look at my support system that I do have, my friends and family around me, who are what I like to call my ride or dies, who are the people who I can be my absolute self with, that I can share whatever I need to share with and know that it will come with no judgment by them. And those are the people that you're going to want to surround yourself with for that emotional support, right? And being able to share all the experiences of motherhood, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because you need that safe space to be able to process those feelings and those emotions. And then there's the people that I like to call the get the stuff done people, right? They're the people who love to get in there. They like to get the laundry done for you. They like to do the cleaning. They're the ones that are like, tell me what to do, and they like to be the tactical people and understanding who that is in your group. And if you don't have somebody that's like that, that's when we can reach out again to those community resources, taking a look at if you have it in your budget to be able to maybe hire somebody to help clean. If you don't, what kind of things can you do to figure out like what are the priorities as far as caring for the household and what can I honestly let go for now so that I can be able to focus on myself. But I think the biggest thing, and you mentioned this with your other guest and her client, is really having the heart to heart conversations with the partner. Because I feel like if you do not feel supported by your partner, if you are not on the same page about what postpartum is really like and what is needed from your body to be able to heal and for you to be able to bond with your little one, then things can be so much harder because you're going to have that friction between the person that you need the most support from, right? And so, really having those conversations around here's what's already on my plate and how that is too much for one person. And would you be willing to step in and help with XYZ in a way that like is collaborative, right? Because parenthood is supposed to be a partnership, just like marriage. And I think that that's one of the biggest things I focus on with the preventative things in pregnancy when we're preparing for these is really that communication piece with the partner, because it's so important to be able to truthfully talk about your experience, be able to share that with them, and then to be able to feel like you are carrying this parental load together instead of, we talk about the load of motherhood, right? The mental load of motherhood and the mental load of taking care of the house and all these other things. And it all starts with being able to communicate and express what you're struggling with your partner, and having those conversations with them and seeing what you're willing to work on as a team together, as a partnership.
And I love that, as that you're saying, like your partner, community, friends. And one thing that is very common
Mm,
is what you say, like, I don't want to be a burden, everybody's too busy. And one
yes.
of the things that I tell my moms and my clients about it is, okay, so if I come and reach out to you and tell you that I am having a really hard time and that I need help, will you think that I'm a burden? Will you think that I am just a pain in your butt? They're
Yeah.
like, absolutely not. I will be
Right.
super happy to help you, and I will be so sorry that you are feeling like that I will do anything that I
Yeah.
can to help you. And then I tell them, like, why then, if that is how
Mm,
you feel, you don't think that people that love you will feel the same when
yes.
you are the one reaching out? And then they're like, well, yeah, but
Yeah.
part of that thinking process of slowing down
Yeah.
and seeing those stories in our mind and stop
Mhm.
them, because that's something that I want to talk with you is even if you don't have the financial resources to do some
Mhm.
of the support, one of the things that I'm being an advocate and I'm being pushing into, I was actually celebrating that one of my friends did it. She actually put in Instagram and Facebook a picture, say, my baby doesn't need any more gifts.
Mm,
We already have more that what she's going to ever use. If you want to give anything, we are doing, she did like this raffle of like when she's going to give birth, and put money there and say, okay, and then the winner is going to have some and the rest is going to go to my postpartum doula. So
yes.
things like that. You don't have to have a lot of money.
Mm,
With you, we were talking about in the green room before, the reality is you don't need even 20-30% of all the, excuse my French, crap that
yes.
they give you on a baby shower.
Yes.
Like all these cute
Yes.
little outfits. Your baby's going to be naked or in a
Yep.
one, and wear those things one. So start feeling empowered to say, hey,
Yep.
I don't want gifts. This is what I want. I want diapers, and I want donations to these funds. My cleaning
Yep.
fund, my meal delivery fund, my postpartum doula fund, my postpartum coach fund. So you don't have to think that it's only you the one to can do it. Like, to be
Right.
completely honest with you, I will be a lot more happy to give a friend, a family member, 50, $150 towards one of those scares that
Yes.
buying a couple of cute outfits that I know that the baby maybe will wear once and they will not even
Right.
remember, versus how much impact that postpartum care will be doing on.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yes, it's about that shift in our own thoughts about, I am worthy of this time to be healing and to be bonding with my little one, and to asking for that support that will actually be helpful. I couldn't agree more with the baby registry. I feel like that's the fun part, right? That's the exciting things, and also like the nursery, decorating the nursery. You're not going to be in your nursery very often at the beginning, right? Like we're like living in with that baby, right? We're doing skin to skin. I always say you should prioritize your postpartum recovery space over the nursery, because you're going to need that space for yourself and for your little one for that special bonding time. Making sure it's comfortable for you, making sure you have everything you need for a feeding station, a diapering station, all of these things so that you can really lie in as much as possible in the society that we're living in. We don't have this beautiful time frame of 40 days for most of us, but it's possible to try to do the first 2 weeks, right? The 5-5-5 rule is something that I always try to encourage, like 5 days in the bed, 5 days on the bed, and 5 days around the bed, and how can you kind of prioritize that, and get your support system to help make that a priority for you as well. Just those tweaks in our own thought processes and really understanding that we are worthy to be prioritized, because a lot of times we disappear into the background once the baby's here. And we have to start saying, I'm not okay with that. I am worthy of care just as much as my baby is.
And let's gonna talk a little bit about that impact in our motherhood journey,
Mm,
because like you and me, a lot of moms are facing that, and that is we have
yeah,
so many other things. We have they are facing mental issues. All of that is impacting your bonding and your connection with your baby.
yeah.
And I want to talk with you about that because we have that hallmark idea that
Mm,
all moms need to completely fall in love and be absolutely adoring their newborns as soon as they see them in the hospital. And as more as I work with moms, as more I see that with all of these other reasons, that is not the case for all of us. There are some
yes.
that do it, but there are some that, with me, I love my
Mhm.
baby, I love my baby, I care for my baby, but I didn't feel that connection and bond until later on. It was not until like
Yes.
month four or fifth, like that I start having that completely melt my heart. But then I feel a
Mhm.
lot of guilt because then what is
Right.
wrong with me that I don't
Right.
feel like I should feel early
Mhm.
on. So how
Yes.
moms can navigate those feelings and know what is normal and what is not normal and get over of
Yes.
that shame of what should.
Yes. Well, I think the power starts in us sharing our stories, right? Because the more we normalize that this is actually what it's like to enter into motherhood, and that, yes, some people experience this bliss, right, from day one, and they have this connection that's immediate. That's normal. But it's also normal to have a slow warm up with our baby. It doesn't mean that we're neglectful or that we are harmful in any way to our child. It just means that sometimes that bond takes a while. It's like love, right? Some people have love at first sight, but honestly, that's rare. That's rare for people and their partners. It takes time to grow into that love and to connect with a person. And just because it's a baby, it doesn't mean that that's not also very normal for us to have that same type of growth in our love and to understand how we're connected, and to your baby's learning just as much as you are. Just because childbirth or breastfeeding or any of these things are natural things, it does not mean that they come naturally or easily for all of us, right? It is a learned skill to parent. And it is a learned skill to breastfeed or chest feed or whatever you're choosing to do, even bottle feed. We have to learn all these things with formula and the safe ways to prepare them. All of those are things that we aren't born knowing. And I think the more that we can talk about that and to normalize that, more and more birth givers can feel empowered to say, okay, there's nothing actually wrong with me. This is just my journey. And that's okay. Now, when we start to have to know that things aren't quote unquote normal or that they're more concerning, are when we kind of start moving into more of those, perinatal mental or perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, um, gateways. We have to kind of look for the intensity of the feelings, the time frame, so how long that they are lasting, and how much it's impacting your day to day life. And so, baby blues is very, very common, and that's within those first 2 weeks of postpartum. And it's going to be more weepy, more just kind of emotional, highs and lows, those kind of things. But after that 2 week mark, if you're having much more of lows than you are having highs, or the anxiety kicks in where you are just afraid to leave the house with your baby, or you're afraid to go to sleep because you're worried your baby's going to stop breathing, all of these things because it's affecting your day to day, that's when we need to have built into our plan about who we can reach out to about our mental health. And that's one of the things that I encourage a lot of folks who are able to do this preventatively, is to understand your, depending on where you live and what your situation is, but your insurance coverage for mental health or behavioral health, and identifying who's in network ahead of time, who is accepting patients, and who is familiar with perinatal mental health specifically, because it is a very unique field, I believe, than just a regular, therapist or counselor who's used to depression and anxiety patients. This is a whole nother realm when we're dealing with perinatal mental health. And so that's one of the biggest keys that I always encourage folks to do is nobody expects or wants to have postpartum mental illness, but we should all be prepared for it just in case, and to have a plan on how we are going to reach out if we are struggling, and what to look out for, and have our support system educated as well on what to look for. Because if we're struggling, a lot of times that self advocacy is just not going to be there, right? And so having that support and understanding with those who are surrounding you in your postpartum village, is what I like to call it, is really important.
And I love that because that is, I actually never thought about it for mental health. But
Mm,
after this show, I'm going to start adding that one too. That is the same concept that I asked for um, a lactation coach, a sleep
mhm,
coach, a nutrition coach, a parenting coach. One of the things that I told them is make the connections when you are
mm,
pregnant, find the person that you resonate with, that is
yes.
aligned with what you are, and have them in your team, ready to
Mhm,
go. If in postpartum you don't need them, perfect.
right.
You didn't lose anything. But
Mhm,
if in postpartum you're facing an issue in any of those things, just knowing that I already know Jessie, that Jessie
mm,
and I talked when I was pregnant, and then I can call Jessie and say, "Oh my God, everything is
right.
going to hell."
Right.
And Jessie is going to know me and say, "Okay, I'm going to get you, and we're going to start working tomorrow."
Yes.
Is a game changer versus assuming, no, everything's going to be fine with me, getting into
Mm,
that the problem, and in addition to that, getting into the burden of I have to figure out who
right.
can help me. And I love that part with the mental health is even that is look around
Mm,
who can be. I think that if you're in the United States, I think that even for therapists, a lot of insurance cover even 6 visits per year. So be
yes.
aware of all of that, find
Mhm,
that, and have them in your pocket. It's not that we
right.
are, I know some moms are like, but if I start doing that, then I am preparing for it. So I'm manifesting it. No, we are still
Mm,
manifesting a beautiful birth, fourth trimester postpartum. But
right.
what is that saying? I hope for the best, but I am prepared for the worst. So I'm hoping for
Exactly.
the best, but when if anything happened, I'm not lost in there
Right.
to talk it. Let's gonna talk a little bit about how we can support those moms
Mm,
um, when they are struggling.
yes.
Because, for example, for me, when I was in the middle of all that, I know people were having it with the best intention. But it frustrated me so much when people were like, "Oh, the days are long, but the years
Mm,
are short," and I'm like, "F you!"
yes.
Like,
Yes.
or I was struggling with the sleeping, and they were like, "Oh, you just wait. The
Mhm.
sleeping progression, whatever is coming, is going to be much worse." So,
Yes.
how we can also, as moms, start educating the people around us
Mm,
into how they can help us and
mhm.
what really is going to be helpful and what is not going to be helpful. And
Yes.
I think that the support on with having somebody like you is
Mm.
helping us to understand and know what that is for us, because a lot of us don't know until it's happening and we are like, oh my God, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Right. Exactly. Oh my god, I love that. Yes. I know. The well wishers, the toxic positivity is really what we see, right? Is, oh, at least the baby is healthy. At least you had a easy birth, and this too shall pass. Well, I think that that is a very powerful saying for us to have, that this is temporary, and then that is one thing that we can tell ourselves to be able to get through a hard season in our parenthood. What we really need from other people is a safe place to be seen, heard, and in control where we can. And so that ability to have a place for our voice to be honored, our experiences to be validated, whether it is happy experiences or the worst of the worst experiences, we need that non-judgment. This is hard. And it's okay to feel like this is not what you expected. And having those validating places and safe spaces to bring that. And so if you don't have somebody like that in your group, in your postpartum village, in your support system, finding those people is so important. So whether it's somebody like Joe, somebody like me, or even a group of, a mom group somewhere in your community, whether it's virtual or online. I send a lot of people to Postpartum Support International. They have incredible resources that are free. They have free online groups that are specific to certain experiences, whether it's a mental health problem that you're struggling with, whether you are a spouse to a service member. I mean, their variety of groups, of support groups, are really incredible. And so looking for those type of people, if you don't have them in your life, seeking out that support is so important, because your experiences are valid, your feelings are valid, and they deserve to be heard and seen instead of squashed down and, creating shame and guilt and all these other things. Because like we said before, if we are normalizing this and we're hearing other people who are going through similar journeys as we are, that is empowering, and that gives us the strength to know that we aren't alone. Because isolation in motherhood and in new parenthood leads to so many problems in so many ways, especially mental health. And so finding those resources and advocating on behalf of yourself is so important. So even if you didn't plan for it ahead of time, it's never too late, and the resources are there. And I'm happy to connect you to them. There's people like us who are well connected and who can tell you these are great resources. One of the things I do a lot with clients is I look in their local community and say, did you know that there's these resources available to you? Let's go pursue them. I had one client who was a single parent, and she had two children and she was postpartum. She was struggling. And I said, let's find some resources for you. And we got her a doula. I applied for a program for a scholarship for her. She won it, and she got this free doula support. And so it's knowing and being able to accept that help, and also knowing where to look. And if you don't know where to look, reaching out to resources like us who can help connect you to those things. They are out there, and they're becoming more and more prevalent. And the more we use them, the more funding they get, and the more we can actually start seeing this support grow.
Absolutely. And Jessi, for the moms out there, it's going to talk a little bit about something that not a lot of people talk, because when we are talking about, there are moms that don't even know about the fourth trimester,
Mhm.
but then are moms that know about the fourth trimester and think that after the baby is 3 months, then it's
Mhm.
done. And let's going to talk about really how long postpartum
Yes.
lasts and how long it can take for a mom to fully heal and to fully balance everything that happened during pregnancy and birth.
Yes, I love this topic. So I think that we're set up for failure because we assume that at the 6 week mark, we should be good to go, right? We get the clear from our doctor. And even if we don't, they say, oh, maybe a couple more weeks, then you should be right as rain and everything will be great. The 6 week mark is a very low bar minimum. And I do not know many birth givers who are actually good to go at 6 weeks. My saying that I always say is birth is temporary, but postpartum is forever, because you have transformed body and soul from your pregnancy and from your labor and delivery, and your body is never going to be the pre pregnancy state that it was. You are now a new you. Right. And you change at a cellular level biologically. I mean, this has been proven by science. We change on a cellular level. So physiologically and biologically, we are in a new body, right? And so that is going to take a very long time to become normal and to become our new normal and to be healed. And so for many, many people, the postpartum time frame, I think, lasts forever, but that healing time frame really can be up to a year to 2 years postpartum, depending on how traumatic of a birth that you had any complications that you might have during pregnancy or in postpartum, and any sort of mental health challenges that you might be facing. So, honestly, that 6 week mark, I tell people throw that out the window. It has nothing to do with how you actually are going to heal. It really has more to do with how you are connected to your body and really having that more intuitive way of being able to follow what your body is telling you and really connecting to that and allowing yourself longer than you expect to heal and to give yourself that time.
I agree, and I was thinking that there is new study that says
Mhm.
that it could take up to 7 years for you to completely heal
Yes.
after birth. So I completely agree with you on the 6 weeks, and that is said as awful failure, especially here in the
Mm.
United States. But now that we are getting close to the end of the show, I would love for you to share, if you could just share one thing that will impact the postpartum experience on all these people that are watching, what that will be that they can start doing, and then also how they can connect with you if they resonate, fall in love with you, and say, okay, I want you in my team, I want to learn more about how you can help me.
Yes. So, my last piece of parting wisdom, I suppose, would be that you need to center yourself in your postpartum experience. It all comes from you. So prioritize your healing, your nourishment, your rest, and your support. And you are worthy of that. So don't let yourself or society make you believe that you're just an extension to your baby because you're not. You are a worthy human outside of your role of mother or parent, and you deserve that care. So that's what I believe, and that's what you should believe too, and bring that close to your heart and start advocating for yourself. And if you want to get connected with me, my website is empoweringpostpartum.com. I am really amping up my blogging and my email list. So if you want to join there, I'm going to be really active there. And of course, you can always find me on all the socials, Empowering Postpartum on Facebook and empowering underscore postpartum on Instagram.
Okay. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Jessie. And then for all of you that are either already pregnant and looking into being proactive into this, or you are already in the postpartum and you are saying, oh, this didn't work like I was thinking, go to social media to empoweringpostpartum.com and
Mhm.
find Jessie. And remember that it is a journey. It is a journey, and we are not like, I love one of the favorite things on this show that Jessie said is all things about motherhood are natural. That doesn't mean they'll come easy to us. So don't let yourself get in the trap of that, and that you are going to be less of a mom, not a successful mom, because you actually are not. Because you are not having because you are not having some of these things. Something happened with the tech, we were having a little break, we were not having some of these things done and properly. So if you are taking anything from today's beautiful interview with Jessi Sletten, is that you deserve to have a postpartum that supports you. I love how you end that, Jessi, into you are as worthy as your baby to be taken care of, to be loved, to be nourished, and to be loved, and understand that it is okay to ask for help, and that it is okay for you to have a different path than the one that your mom had or your friends had or anybody else had. Jessi, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure and an
Thank you.
honor to be with you. And for everybody else, please also remember to go to Instagram when you are following Jessi, and then also go and follow Joe Unicorn Coach and send me a DM on how this show land for you and what was your aha moment for the show. These shows can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.